Let us turn to Afsana Begum, the Labour MP for Poplar and Limehouse, who we were going to be talking to this morning about what was going to happen after the by-election yesterday, but obviously there is another subject that has come up. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And I suppose the question now for the British government is the level of cooperation or non-cooperation that there should be.
Well, I think in terms of what's happening this morning, it's very sad to wake up this morning and hear about what's happening in Iran. I think what it actually signals is that the US appears to be involved. And I think, quite frankly speaking, there was a board of peace that was created, and I'm not quite sure that the peace is the priority for the US.
I suppose one of the things that complicates it, though, is that there are, and we were hearing this from Lise Doucet earlier on, there are some people in Iran who desperately want the Iranian regime to go. And if this hastens that, we are, or Donald Trump will be able to say, I'm acting on humanitarian grounds.
Well, my thoughts very much are with the people in Iran, the people in Israel, the people in the United States of America who do not necessarily feel that their governments and regimes represent their interests and have their best interests at heart.
Do you have a direct answer to the question, should Keir Starmer welcome this action, support it, or clearly say that it's wrong, given that there will be those who say that it should not be happening?
I think if we look at the UK's involvement in terms of enabling and facilitating the genocide in Gaza, I think it's incredibly important that there are discussions and debates through the parliamentary mechanisms. That's what's important here. We cannot have knee-jerk reactions and responses to things happening on the international stage.
Right, so there should not be cooperation given to the United States until it has been aired in Parliament.
Well, I think given the track record of the Labour government, in particular, as I say, in terms of the genocide in Gaza and the continued support and facilitation of it from the UK's perspective, I think it's really important that we do have debates and discussions in Parliament.
Do you really believe that Keir Starmer is actively supporting genocide?
Well, I quite frankly, when I speak to my constituents, they feel incredibly shocked.
Do you, though? Do you believe that Keir Starmer is actively supporting genocide?
Well, my constituents still speak about Keir's comments, which, were a few years ago now, but, the fact that he had said that Israel had the right to cut off electricity to Gaza, it came up repeatedly.
He did correct that, didn't he?
He corrected that, and there's been many U-turns on policies in the country as well. But those things do remain in people's consciousness in our country, and they need the leadership desperately in the UK, domestically, but also internationally. And there are huge questions over that with Keir Starmer.
Yeah, and that then brings us to the subject we were going to be talking about, the fallout from the by-election yesterday. Do you believe Keir Starmer should stay or should go?
Well, I think firstly, this is the catastrophic result for the Labour Party. Instead of this being a two-horse race between Labour and Reform, what we see is the Greens coming through. And, I'm glad that Reform did not win. I seriously worry about the impact of Reform and their policies, their rhetoric against minorities in this country, and also the Muslim community in particular. We obviously have lost for a number of reasons. I think that factional interests have been put first and central, and that's been a feature of the Labour government since it's been in power. The contempt for communities on issues such as immigration, on Gaza, which we've just spoken about, the Mandelson saga, and also just overall negative campaigning. Someone does have to take responsibility, and I think it's inevitable that Keir Starmer's leadership will come to an end. I think he will limp on, but I think the issues of the day are what concern me, and I think what has not happened is a real acknowledgement of what has gone wrong here and the real and the necessary lessons that need to be learnt.
Do you have a name? Do you know who you want to replace him?
I mean, I don't think this is the most important thing. I appreciate that the media cycle wants to
Well,
discuss
no,
these things. It might be
but
of
hang on a second.
interest.
For the governing of the country, though, people will say, hang
Of
on a
course,
second, they'll
what
look
I
at the
think.
Conservatives and the mess that they got into when they replaced leader after leader. And I suppose the case that they might make to you, including people who aren't particularly interested in politics but want the country to be governed, is, hang on a second, you can't just get rid of someone and not have someone else in mind.
Well, I think true leadership is about making sure that people are being heard and listened to. I think it's very clear that we're in a cost of living crisis, and instead of making sure that people's needs are being met, we've seen a continued support for austerity, for big business and privatization. So it does come back to policies and who's willing to champion the policies that will make a material difference and a material change to people in our country. That's what's come up in this by-election. That's what's come up in the last couple of years. And that's why there's been U-turns on policies. But I'm not quite sure that when the U-turns actually happen, it's actually landed in the country across the population. I think people still remember those early decisions when the Labour government came in, where it looked like suddenly the change that was promised was not going to happen. And I don't think the position in terms of the Labour government has really recovered since then. Of course, there's been U-turns, and of course, we want to see things like the two-child limit to be scrapped, which for which I was suspended from the
Yes.
Parliamentary Labour Party, of course. But I think people remember that. I think people remember, for example, the fact that people like myself were suspended from the Parliamentary Labour Party. They question what are the interests that are being put ahead of real interests of people in the country, and how is it that their needs cannot be met? How is it that we can be in a situation where in 3 years' time people will still be questioning whether their living standards have
All right.
improved?
Absana Begum, MP, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this morning.